Good afternoon. Today is the 11th of April, and as promised, it's time to answer some of the questions which you posed to me earlier this week. There have been quite a number of these, and we'll get on with it now, shall we? We'll start with Dave Wright. Have you considered having the camera slightly further away to get more interior? Well, I don't have a car mount. I was going to buy one before the lockdown, so yeah. It's also very easy to manipulate the pause button if I have it in my hand. If it's over there, then I can't do that, and it means it's a bit quicker to film like this. So we might or might not address that at some point. David Metcalf says, "Are you going to do cars from Jason King?" Yes, definitely. There is a playlist of cars on television, and I'm gradually adding to the bottom of that list with the new episodes. But I've already done cars of Jason King last year, just I didn't show any footage or any stills from the series, which is why I'm doing them all again, because I've got time. These are quite time consuming to film. They're not the easiest thing to do. I know they're not very good quality, but they are a lot better than they used to be, so just bear with me, we'll get there eventually. Mr. Steve Stafford asks, "My question would be, what would you choose, an 80s hot hatch or a 60s classic on a £5,000 budget?" I think I'm going to have to say 80s hot hatch. The two I'd probably choose would be an MG Maestro, probably the 2 litre. I don't know if I'd want the turbo because they're very rare and they eat front tyres, but definitely the 2 litre EFI, or the Mazda 323 GT or turbo, I think it was. It's sort of kind of late 80s generation of those. They are 4x4 actually in some ways. Chances of getting one of those though are quite slim, so I'd probably be having an MG Maestro. Mr. Stanley Leppard, one of my long-time viewers, asks 2 questions. What are your views on the merits of super unleaded versus unleaded versus supermarket petrol? Honest John recommends paying extra for Shell Optimax. Also, clearing my father's garage, I found several bottles of Red-X that were unopened. Is there any mileage? Yes, good joke. Adding a dose when filling up, especially when buying cheaper petrol. The expert that you're going to find in this area will be Mr. James Coleman. He's much better at this sort of thing than me. But from my own experience and driving more modest cars, I don't tend to have very powerful cars in my fleet, really. I did an experiment with a 1.2 Vauxhall Corsa C from 2006 and a Rover 45 1.4 Club SC that I had at the time. This is about 10 years ago. And I tried running both on standard supermarket unleaded and also Tesco Momentum 99, which is good stuff. It's the kind of thing that you can definitely use in your classic. And I did not notice a significant change in the fuel economy at all. I think if you were running it on a high performance engine, bear in mind the Corsa had 82 horsepower and the Rover had 103. So it's not worth it on a car like that. I think really something like the Toledo I just run it on standard supermarket petrol. That would be fine. E5, E10 won't really affect that. It's not a problem. You know, a lot of garages on the continent run E10 anyway. If you have an older car, then you probably want to avoid using supermarket petrol, particularly E10, and you want to run it on decent quality fuel, probably super unleaded. Certainly Mark II Granadas, things like that, better on that. The Rover, I've got the 216, that's probably fine in E5 because it's a standard 1.6 Honda engine. But definitely if you've got something that's high performance or a little bit older, then it's worth using super unleaded. Red-X I've used a lot in a lot of cars I've had. It does work. Although you can't really use it very much because once the fuel system is clean, it's clean. You don't really need to use that very often. So it does work. It's worth using it. It will get you better performance and economy if your car's old or you haven't used it for a while, but it's not something that you can use on a very frequent basis. Now a very technical YouTube question from Colin Hicks. I've noticed some channels have adverts just at the beginning and end of videos. However, other channels sometimes have mid-roll adverts and you get cut off mid-sentence. Are you able to choose when the adverts play? Obviously, they're needed, and that's how YouTube makes money and pays you. Yes, you can choose that. You can choose to disable the mid-roll adverts. I haven't actually been paid by YouTube yet. My channel's been monetized for over 2 months, and because of the way that it works, you have to earn a certain amount of money before you get paid anything. And also you have to go through a very long process of them sending you a code in the post, and you've got to wait weeks and weeks for the code to arrive. Also, the amount of money that YouTube pays me is not an awful lot. I'm not sure if I actually reached the minimum amount yet. And this is single figures we're talking about. This isn't anything great. Suffice to say that I won't be relying on YouTube for my main income. It doesn't really make me much. My channel's seen about a quarter drop in view time over the last month as well, so that hasn't particularly helped. I just don't have, obviously, lots of dynamic, exciting content to make. Unless you're really into cars on television or, vlog videos, then there's not much I can do about that, really. So that's just the way that has to be, and that's fine. The channels that are much larger than mine, they are a lot more concerned about getting the revenue because they rely upon it. So if you can, to anyone, I mean, this isn't just me, this is the same for anybody, you watch the videos all the way through. If you really want to give them the most money, then don't skip the adverts. If you really want me to remove the mid-roll adverts, I will remove them, because we find it a pain, but they do get anyone a little bit more money because YouTube pays more for the mid-roll ones. It is a bit silly you get cut off, but you can't choose where they're positioned. You just say you can have adverts at the middle or not. That's just the way that it is. So I hope that answers a little bit of your question. That is a very technical one. Mr. Andy G says, my question to you is on mainstream television. Do you think there is a need for a genuine car programme for ordinary working class people with limited budget, much like Top Gear was in the 80s and 90s, or do you think this would hinder your own YouTube channel? Goodness gracious me. Well, if you look at channels like What Car and Car Buyer and all this sort of thing, they have exactly that kind of feeling that programs like, I don't know, Driven or what was the other one, The Road Show, all these kind of things from smaller channels that were in the 1990s. They still get press cars, they still do sort of things that are interesting, but I don't know if there's really a market for them, because most people who are looking at cars, they just go onto YouTube. So it would be a nice thing to see on television, but I just don't think the money is there to be able to pay for the sponsorship and advertising, when, What Car and other big brand magazines just do it themselves. Or, you can watch Furious Driving or JM on Cars or people like that who, again, do cover sort of a lot of the same ground in ways. And obviously, High Peak Autos and JM on Cars, they more look at second-hand ones, whereas some channels focus on new ones like Planet Auto does. And I'm just a bit all over the place. I'd like Furious Driving, I'll do both. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm not sure there's enough of a market for that at the moment, although I would kind of like to see it. Matty from Matty's Cars says, I'm no my environmentalist, but I'm glad to hear that diesel sales are down. Petrol technology is so good, we don't really need diesel variants in medium to small cars. The dealership I work in, however, is selling more diesels than ever. I don't really know why second-hand diesels are more popular than ever. They're probably because they're cheap. The area that Matty lives in, I think, possibly has not got congestion charges in at the moment. Obviously, nowhere does at present, but after this whole lockdown period finishes, maybe they'll come back. I don't really know why that'd be the case. Petrols, like the ones in my Seat, I mean, it does 55 to 60 miles per gallon on the motorway this time of year. I mean, you don't really need a diesel because the fuel is more expensive, although obviously it's cheap at the moment. Yeah, I don't know why that is. Obviously, I can't talk about much to do with diesels on this channel, as you know, so we're going to have to leave that one there. Rich from Rich Road says, sometimes good cars are not in the limelight, like the Toyota Camry Hybrid with a 2.5 unit is a bargain in terms of pricing. And there are others, they don't get much publicity. Is it the advertising funds that are lacking? Quite possibly. I mean, Toyota are making a lot of money, or they were before the lockdown happened anyway, selling a lot of the Corolla variants, Corolla Estate, Saloon, hatchback. They discontinued the 1.2 turbo base model that wasn't a hybrid. So they're really pushing those. And the Camry's not really a car that I think appeals to a lot of people. It appeals to somebody like me because it's not overtly sporty, and so wouldn't have a ridiculously firm ride that isn't to my taste particularly. But there are people out there who do like cars like that, and it isn't really publicised very much. But it occupies this funny niche where most people want a BMW or an Audi or a car like that, and the hybrids and mild hybrids are coming out increasingly for those. And the Toyota's not significantly cheaper than either of those, really, and there are some compromise in terms of having the dreadful CVT gearbox in those. It really depends what you want. I mean, there's also a 5-year warranty with Toyota, of course. Don't get that in an Audi or a BMW and a high equipment list, but the sat-nav, the infotainment systems aren't great in those, unfortunately. And I would like to drive one. I'm just not particularly sure I'd own one. Obviously, I specialise in underrated cars myself. We had an MG3 and a Seat Toledo together for over 2 years. So, yes, I like underrated cars, but that particular one I'm not sure is my absolute favourite. But I, like to be proven wrong if I had got to have a go at one. Traberly, who is one of my regular viewers, who always asks similar questions, is going to have the final one this time. I'm going to give you another time, place, machine scenario question, since we all have a bit more time in our hands. Well, yeah, some people do, anyway. Codename Faith. So all the spare time you had recently, you decide to take your time machine out for a quick spin to charge its battery 4 years earlier and back again. But no, it's gone back 40 years to the year 1918. It breaks down just outside London in Hertfordshire. Well, that'd be Avengerland. The door opens in front of you, 2 cars. One of them is a Vauxhall Monza. It'd be Opel Monza actually at that time. 3 litre driven by Mr. Coleman, rubbish mechanic. And the second one is a Mercedes 280e Coupe. That'll be the W123 or C123 Coupe, driven by Mr. Richardson. They are both being pursued by CI5. Bodie, Dahl and Cowley's Granada 2.8. Yes, he did have a 2.8 at that time. You have a decision to make. Which of the cars would have the most faith from me to outrun Cowley's Granada? And then secondly, which of the engine of the two would you have most faith to power your time machine to take everyone back to the present? The engine has to run continually at 4,500 RPM for 5 hours without breaking down. Oh my gosh. Yes, we do get involved in these convoluted scenarios on my channel, and all I can do is apologise, but I secretly quite like it, so it's my channel, I can do what I want. So Opel Senator Coupe, or basically an Opel Monza, I quite like those. That'll be the 3 litre straight 6 cam in head engine in one of those. I think really that one is going to be a bit faster than the Mercedes. Mercedes is a little bit on the heavy side, and I'm not sure the 280 was as powerful as a 3 litre in the Opel. I think though probably in terms of reliability, Mr. Coleman would know more than this because he's had several of these cars. The Mercedes might be a bit more reliable to run for 5 hours, 4,500 RPM, take us all back. Interesting scenario though. I mean, I think the Opel's probably going to handle it a bit better. I'm not sure it has recirculating ball steering or like Mercedes does or not, but they probably handle a little bit better. The other thing that he's asked me is whether or not I've got 2 extra cars to add to my 60s garage. We spoke about the last questions answer session, which is number 6. This is number 7. I think the 2 cars I'm going to add are a 1966 Lotus Elan Series 3, as in the Avengers, and we'll also add a 1969 Humber Sceptre to the mix because I like the Root Arrow cars, but I need to have a very, very nice one in order to justify them. The sort of Minxes and the low-end Hunters don't do much for me. So yeah, Humber Sceptre, very nice. So there we are. That is your questions answered, part 7. did promise I would do my best to answer all those questions, and hopefully that is to your satisfaction. We'll do another one of these at some point. But thank you ever so much indeed for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more of the same, I suppose, if that's what you want to do. And don't forget to like this video and leave a comment below. And especially if you've watched the whole thing, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching.